Hello, everyone. Are you here? Is somebody here? Welcome to the webinar with Scaleway, securing capsule cluster with private network. We are very happy to welcome you on this webinar. Feel free to share some comments, some feedbacks. We need some interaction, so you can say you are here in the question. No, not the question, the chat. Feel free to say hello. Very good. So we're gonna wait a bit now, or are you going to start right now? We're going to start. So today we're going to speak about security and Kubernetes, and about our product Kubernetes Kapsule, and how we giving security with a private network. So that's something new for Scaleway. I'm very happy to present that today. Today we are two on stage. Myself, Alexander. I'm a product marketing manager on Kubernetes, on network as well. So it's good because today we speak about the two topics. So I've got one leg in each product. And we have Thibaut, our amazing product manager on Kubernetes.
Hello, everyone. I hope you are doing well today. Glad to be here with you. So yeah, indeed, I'm the product manager at Scaleway, responsible for everything Kubernetes here. It's a technology we love, and we've been investing in Kubernetes for many years, aiming to provide you with some sustainable and reliable and secure, obviously, orchestration solutions so that, European companies here can have a choice.
Very good, thanks to you. So if you have any comment, any question, use the chat or use the question tabs on the side. We can answer that at the end of the webinar. We have also a poll to know you a little bit better. So like, what is your maturity on Kubernetes? How do you use the product? So it'll be very interesting to have your answer. It will normally appear on the side very soon to have your answer. So feel free to answer that, and so we can adapt the level of expertise that we give to the talk. And as I said, if you have any question, feel free. So today, what is the goal of this webinar? What are we going to learn? We're going to have a look what is the benefit of using private networks with Kubernetes, how to apply this integration in your cluster inside the Kubernetes Scaleway ecosystem, and then we'll see what is the status right now, what is coming next, what is the future of this integration. We have a good schedule, a good agenda about why and what is Kubernetes and private network. We give you as well a big pictures of the product and the integration. What would be the benefits for your business and for you? And Thibaut at the end will do a demo time, direct live, securing Kubernetes cluster with a private network. As some of you don't know us, we'll do a short presentation about Scaleway. So we are a cloud provider. We help developer businesses to build, deploy, and scale their application on Scaleway. We are an open provider dedicated to startup and developers. As you may notice, we are a French one, and European and sovereign, because we master the entire stack from the hardware to the software. We have more than 25,000 clients at Scaleway in 160 countries. Currently, we have 8 data centers in France, in Holland, and Poland. So if you want to have your instances or your product in Europe, it's a very good place. If we would like to define Scaleway, we are here to help you to build, deploy, and scale in infrastructure. We have a complete cloud ecosystem from serverless to bare metal. If we go through the stack, it's a very wide one. We have more than 40 products at Scaleway, and we release each month new products and new new stuff for you to help you build your infrastructure. For example, we are currently launching a new VPC, Virtual Private Cloud, and we are also launching, we have launched during the last months transactional email, cockpit observability, or a secret manager solution. So that's what for Scaleway right now. But now let's go back to our topic. Why private networks matter with Kubernetes infrastructure. But before we go into the Kubernetes one, I'm going to introduce again what is a private network and what is the definition. It's actually a private network at Scaleway. It's a layer 2 network to secure your instances, your resources, generally speaking, from the external network, from the internet. For example, you can connect on the same network, you can speak together, but without any exposition on internet, instances, an elastic metal, so a bare metal, or a database. On many other products. And now it will be able to connect a worker node, a capsule cluster, on this same network. If we want to take a comparison, I like this one. Is a network with your internet connection at home. If you take your Wi-Fi, it could be compared to private network where you connect all your computer, your printer, for example, your voice assistant, your thermostat. They communicate each other, but they have access to internet thanks to the router, to the box you pay from your internet provider. So it's approximately similar what we do here with your Wi-Fi connection. Approximately, yeah. If we go to the concept of Kubernetes and why is it important to put it on a private network, is one of the best practice given by the Kubernetes community and especially by the Cyber Security and Infrastructure Security Agency from the US. If we have a look on all these rules, we see on number 4, we have isolate nodes on private network. If we have a look on the other, it's many things about automation, about monitoring, authentication, looking about the vulnerabilities. But today we only focus on number 4, how I isolate my nodes on a private network. So now we're going to have a look on what is the difference between a public capsule and a private one. And I will give the, the stage to Thibaut, and he will help you to understand a bit better.
And to everyone in the audience here, I'd be very curious to hear back from you. I mean, we've been discussing briefly the best practices, but tell us in the comments, tell us in the chat, maybe what you have been doing in security in your firm to protect your Kubernetes clusters. Maybe link any resources you'd recommend to read for the community, or pay forward everything you've learned. We'd be very happy to see where you are in terms of security. Okay, now that we know, thank you, Alexandre, what is a private network? Yeah, let's have a look at what it means for your Kubernetes clusters at Scaleway. In this part, I'm going to show you mostly the big picture, right? And I love diagrams, so I hope you do. I prepared 2 for you. We're going to have a look at the regular cluster, which is a public mode, and then we're going to look at the private one. Okay. So first step, this is a Kubernetes Kapsule. It's simplified example on the public internet. Okay. So this infrastructure is split over 2 different networks. On the right hand, you see some resources on the private network, instance, elastic metal, and managed database. On the left hand side, we have what was up until this year into a Kubernetes Kapsule cluster. It's a control plane that is communicating with its worker nodes, and they are all exposed on the public internet in pink here. With the load balancer service, you can see them. You can see it at the bottom here, provisioned to route all the inbound traffic, right? So as you can imagine, there was no secure bridge between the public network left and private network right. Plus, since all the worker nodes are often being deleted or replaced by orchestration, you can easily get their public IP and specific IPs and ports to communicate with your private resources. You can whitelist them easily. Thus, you'd have to open pretty much all the IPs and all the ports on your private network to communicate with them. So you see the main issue here, right? So now there's a game changer, because here you have a first glance at what is a Kubernetes Kapsule cluster on private networks, right? That's what it looks like. Glad to share with you today. You see the worker nodes here in the middle, located inside a pool. They're able to get secure IP addresses. You see them private IPs on blue, coming from a regional private network on the right hand. Hence, they can securely communicate with the resources you had isolated, same as the example before. Again, think about this example given by Alexandre, attaching everything into your Wi-Fi network, all of them getting private IPs dynamically. Same thing here. This, of course, is not a trivial thing to do. I mean, anyone working with Kubernetes know the pain of container network interfaces, IP addressing, and so on. And so we've done a lot of work to make this as simple as possible for managing these IP addresses, and a lot of work done with our teams managing networks here at Scaleway. So I'll be looking forward to hearing from those of you who have already tested this integration and seeing how it is easy, we hope it is, to set things up. You might be wondering why we still keep public IPs on the worker nodes. You see them in pink on the left side, right? So why public IPs? Mainly for three reasons. For one, when spawning your worker nodes, they need to pool resources using APT or Docker pool, etc. For two, because kubelet, a component that we manage and install on the worker nodes, and the API server must be able to connect, right? And because the API server must communicate with nodes and pods and services through connectivity, this service that is providing the TCP level proxy for the control plane and cluster communication. So we do need to have this bridge with the control plane that is on the separate infrastructure. For three, because some of our customers do need public IPs all the time. For some cases, like crawling the internet with these nodes and getting tons of data, right? Imagine having just no public IP or just one public IP. How would you have bots crawling the internet? You get rate limited immediately, right? So that's why we decided to keep that. Now, of course, if you feel that's beating the point of security, I mean, we have these public IPs that could be reachable, right? Well, rest assured, we have a solution for this. You can see it on the far left side that all the inbound traffic is being locked by default, dropped by default, thanks to what we call the security group that is set up on your instance, on all your instances, by the way, of the pool, because this security group acts as a firewall on your nodes. So it will be automatically configured for all the new clusters at Scaleway, so that you don't have to even toy with it, you don't have even to think about it. No have to do whatever operator that used to be out there. It is now set by default for new clusters. It is not set by default for existing clusters for retrocompatibility reasons. I'll explain a bit further, so that we don't conflict with your manual configurations. Okay, but in summary, you have private IPs and public IPs, a bit of both worlds, and security group is blocking all the internet traffic coming in, so that you can reach out to pull from the internet, but not the other way around. Nobody can reach out to you. Okay, and cherry on the cake at the bottom here, you see a load balancer was provisioned by our cloud controller manager, which is now detecting when your Kapsule clusters is running on the private network, and will then provide you with a private backend and a public front end, meaning the traffic is forwarded to your worker nodes through the cluster's private network. Okay, and if you have a trusted IP configured on your ingress controller, okay, note that the request will come from that private IP that is set on the back end of the load balancer. Okay, so I hope that now you're getting the big picture part. I'm going to stop here. Again, please tell us in chat, in questions, what do you think? If you have questions up until this point, feel free to write, and Alex and I will be seeking up to answer at the end of this sharing. Third part, let's take a quick moment to reflect. Okay, security is important. We got that. But what does it bring to my company? What does it bring to my end users? Okay. I told you we've been hard at work securing Kapsule this year. So we took the initiative to ask many of our engaged customers why this was important for them, why now, and what would be the benefits. So I'm wrapping up here on that slide 3 outcomes for you when you'd be moving your Kubernetes clusters from public to private. 1, already covered, obviously, just in case you're joining just now, a private network in Kubernetes is a very high item on the list of best practices. If you're not doing it, sooner or later, you'll regret it. And since it's working out of the box and it's all for free, I don't know if you mentioned it earlier, I mean, why wouldn't you do it? Already hundreds of clusters at Scaleway moved to private since we launched this feature a month ago, and they have the security by default. Second item, our users find that their end customers, which could be often corporates or public administrations, they do expect this setup massively. And if you're dealing with such clients, know that they will look for it when they will be auditing your security. And if you're not compliant, you won't be able to argue, you're out. So ultimately, it's less business. And further than that, you should be able now to claim that you're proud to host your data to a European cloud provider for sovereignty, already explained by Alexandre. All our technologies from hardware to software is sovereign, and making sure it's not all in the American basket, right? So that's great, of course, but we want to make a statement here. We want to say that even with European cloud, you can reach stellar security, okay? And it comes with a simple solution: 1 cluster equal 1 VPC, which is now in your reach. And third, not the least, stronger network performance. Although this wasn't benchmarked officially by us, many of our users report that they have a much stronger network performance when the clusters run on the private network. Simply put, they were able to divide by half the time to query from a Kapsule worker node to a Postgres database that is running in the private network. It's cool, no? At the bottom, we have this little test that was shared by our team. I'm going to share my screen right away. This is provided by Database as a Service, the team here. You should be able to see, Alexandre, can you confirm this private network demo? Little test environment? You do? Excellent. So we're going to see the time to read or write a public database first. So let's have a look at how much time it takes to read from a public database. So 0.20 something. And if I read from a private network now, you see that I'm 0.11 now seconds. What if I want to write inside a public database first? 0.23 seconds. And when I try to insert entries inside the database on the private network, I get down to 0.14 seconds, right? So this quick demo shows you some of the benefits, right, specifically for databases and network. I'm going to go back quickly to the slides right here. Okay, I'm going to elaborate a little bit more on this database use case because I find it very interesting, and this is something I've heard a lot from our users. They are eager to move to private networks to ensure the database, in particular, stays safe. I mean, this is likely the most critical asset, right? So as demonstrated earlier, you want to have your database, like your Postgres here in this example, to have a private IP and to be on the same network than your worker nodes, right? And by the way, this private IP is now automatically assigned to an IP address manager we run, so you don't have to do anything. The IP allocation comes out of the box. And that way, your database doesn't need to open an access to a whole list of public IP ranges anymore. You can just, on the ACL, do nothing. It's all inside the same private network. And you get already this benefit of lower latency, as showed just before, making sure it's all working smoothly, okay? So less surface of attacks faster communication. Nothing else to add. This is the best setup we could hope for. Already demo time. All right, part 4. I'd like to demonstrate to you 2 things right now. 2 possible steps for you to take. One, we're going to have a look at a public cluster that is running, and we're going to migrate it over to private networks in just a few clicks. And second, we're going to have a look at how to set up a brand new cluster on a private network. Okay, here we go. I'm going to share my screen again. And you should see, do you see the Scaleway user interface right now? Alexandre?
Yes, you have some sub-hubs.
Perfect. Thank you so very much.
Your console. No worries.
Excellent. So here we are with a cluster called Public Boy. You see it's a capsule cluster that is currently running on a public network. And right away, I'm being recommended by Scaleway to migrate to private network. And here, there are some pop-ups everywhere telling me that it's time to move to private networks. But hold on, let's see what's inside. I'm going to open the Kubernetes dashboard that comes again out of the box right here and look at what's inside. So we have 1 deployment, 1 replica set, and we have these 10 pods that are running. It's a very simple, you can see it from the image, it's a very simple HTTP header 1 that is echoing. I also have a service of type load balancer that is running, and we can try it right away, clicking here. So you see my load balancer will randomly show me the name of my pod that is running. See the last part here is the name of the pod. I have 10 of them, so whenever I refresh, I get another pod. So it's all working fine. What if I wanted now to isolate my worker nodes and my containers within a private network? All right, let's do it. I'm going to move to the private network tab, brand new, right here. And this tab reminds me of the following. I mean, what I just explained to you, your nodes currently have only public IP addresses. We can do better because private networks give you an ability to get all your resources to communicate isolated. And when we'll be migrating to this isolation mode, controlled because of security groups, of course, we still keep the public IPs and they get also a private IP. Okay, so let's do it. Watch out already, you can see in orange here, is expected a short network downtime during this migration from public to private. We measured between 1 to 10 minutes depending. And I'll explain to you why. What will happen after we start this migration, several things. 1, your control plane will restart for the first start. For the first time, I mean, the control plane have to restart. That means that your Kubernetes API will be temporarily unavailable for you to reach, still functioning though. Your pools then will be upgraded and migrated into private network. All of your nodes will be rebooted according to the policy of your pools. Then once all the nodes have been rebooted, the control plane will be reconfigured to use private network, okay? And then we start it again. And then the load balancers, if you have any, will be reconfigured and migrated to private network. See, a lot of work is being done under the hood for you. And finally, that's where network loss, the CNI, the container network interface of your cluster, is reconfigured and we started to use the private network. Okay, got it? A lot of steps happen when you start this migration. And to proceed, I have to make a choice. I'm offered 2 options here. Either I create a brand new regional private network, okay? And as I said earlier, 1 cluster, 1 PN is the good practice. Or I want to attach an existing regional private network I have at Scaleway. For example, the one that I have with my database already running at Scaleway. Be careful to put your database in a regional private network in this case. In just a matter of weeks, it won't make a difference because everything will be regional and this will be the end of a transition period. But some customers of us are already using the legacy private network that is zonal as we speak, so just a heads up. Voila, so I have to make this choice. I'm going to create a new regional private network and launch this migration right away. And voila, everything is happening under the hood. Another heads up, in this case, as I mentioned to you earlier, you want to check manually your security group to block the inbound traffic of your public network interface for your nodes. Because if during this migration we had dropped all the inbound traffic, we could have broken your production. So we let you close if you want to. For example, when you be updating your security group, you might want to set up a stateful group to allow some services you use, for example, host port or directly some node ports. We see that a lot. Some customers, instead of doing load balancers, do node ports. So be careful updating your security group to block inbound traffic. That's why we put you a reminder here as soon as you do this little migration. So let's see the load balancer now. Right here, we should have now a public front end and a private backend. So that's the wrong one, obviously. Here we go. Backend here. You see that now my load balancer has been reconfigured and my private backend shows here while I still have a public front end attached to it. So I'm able to get back to this load balancer and see if it's still functioning. Yes, my cluster is still up and running. From public front end here that I have to private backend communicating with my 10 pods that I have running on this cluster. Okay. So we can also see it here from VPC. We have this private network section where actually I'm going to go back. I can have more than one private network now within a VPC in any region. So I already have two in this example. And in this private network, I have two resources being attached to it. As I mentioned, I have this node that was migrated, and I have this load balancer that is already moved inside to this private network. And why not adding more? I could have here more resources, like my Postgres database, for example. I could get it right away and get it assigned, as I mentioned to you earlier, a new private IP, and attach it to this private network to make sure that instances on one end and database on the other end is being attached. Here we go. The resources have been added, and I see it popped here inside my list. Cool. I think you guys got the idea. That's for an existing cluster. Existing customers using Kapsule want to move to private network this way. And if you have any further questions, we're here to help. Now, that was for an old cluster, as I said. What about new clusters? Very straightforward. I'm going to create a new cluster inside Kubernetes right here, create cluster. I have to pick between Kapsule and Cosmos. Well, Cosmos isn't in the scope of this integration. I mean, it's multi-cloud, right? How could we get external nodes on a private network managed by Scaleway? It doesn't make sense, right? So I'm going to pick Kapsule. I'm going to pick a region. It's compatible with any. You could pick any region you want. Let's stay in Paris for now. Pick any version, compatible with all of them. And here you have this new step, once more, that is showing. New section, configuring a regional private network. Exactly like when we migrated a public cluster, right? Same steps. I have to pick between an existing private network or a brand new one. If I don't do anything here and I just skip, well, we're going to create this private network for you for free, attach it to your resources in your organization, and attach it to your cluster right away. You can change the name if you like, or let the generator generate. I mean, that's what generators do, they generate. Be careful because it's explained here with this orange box. This private network will be permanently attached to this cluster. There's no way around it. You won't be able to detach from this private network. You won't be able to roll back from a private network. There's no way to go back to a public network. You'd have to recreate a whole cluster. But by default now in the console, you can see we ask security by design. We ask every new cluster to come to a regional private network, but you still have your public IPs. So you can do plenty of things with it. Okay. Voila. That's pretty much it for the first step, setting up my cluster, change the name, tags, whatever. And here, of course, I would have to choose a zone where I'll put my nodes. Let's pick Paris 2. Oh, look at that. We have brand new workload optimize nodes that are here. POP2 sounds good. With high memory, okay, sweet. Can pick a few nodes and get started right away with my cluster. Okay, so it would take a few minutes to have the control plane up and running, and the worker nodes I have two here to spawn within this cluster. I'm going to skip this part, but remember how that works. Just a quick reminder to conclude here. We've moved to the VPC tab here, and we have seen the resources showing up. You want to have a look here at the security groups. You see that for every cluster I have, a security group is created. And we, as I mentioned, we are dropping by default all the inbound traffic for every private cluster that is being designed at Scaleway moving forward, so that you are secure for when you get started. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and go back very quickly to the slides that are here. All right, already 11:30. Last part of this webinar, that was just a wrap up of what we did. I'm going to skip this part and last part. I'm sure you have a lot of questions that are spinning in your head right now. Like, okay, we got the worker nodes isolated, but can I get rid of these public IPs? Can I get a public gateway? Can I get control planes isolated as well? And so on. So truth be told, we have a lot more in the backlog, and we're going step by step instead of keeping you waiting 1 year before getting secured. So what I've showed you earlier is just the phase 1. Again, we're going to offer you right now worker nodes isolated with a private IP and public IPs kept, or inbound traffic dropped as demonstrated. Phase 2, we're going to offer you the additional option, I insist, an option for your worker nodes to keep these public IPs or have only private IPs if you want to, no more public IPs. If you like, you can isolate the whole worker nodes within a private network only. In that case, we also bring compatibility with public gateways, which is, it will be required to route every outgoing traffic. And it will give you the benefit of having just one single output IP in case you want to whitelist it to external services. Okay. And last but not least, phase 2, next quarter, essentially, we're going to bring you also load balancers that will be fully private, so that you can have, if you want them, you can have entirely inside the private network and not half-half as shown earlier. In phase 3, a bit later this year, we call it all in, because at this stage, we'll be able to offer to our dedicated control planes users to be also isolated. So your control plane, the brain of the operations, can also be brought to a private network, so that this, in this case, nothing else is remaining on the public network. And cherry on the cake, we'll have some ACL to restrict the control plane access on that network. So you see a lot more coming. We do prioritize security a lot at Scaleway, and we want to introduce these changes step by step to your cluster so that you can isolate progressively what you want to, depending on your use cases. Okay. This concludes the sharing part, and I think it's time to hear back from you. Perhaps ask questions or write in the chat, whatever you prefer. Happy to discuss with you all. I think we have a first question from Philip here. When the cluster is managed via Terraform, can the cluster be migrated to private network via Terraform, or must perform migration, I guess, via the UI? That's a great question, Philip. We do have a lot of our users doing Terraform at Scaleway. So here's the compatibility we have with Terraform. Very simple. You can attach a private network to your clusters on Terraform. You want to use this new is regional true parameter to get a regional private network. And as soon as you attach a private network ID to a cluster that didn't have a private network, then the migration will be triggered. That's quite new. if you have a cluster with a private network on Terraform, and if you remove this private network ID, be careful. First, Terraform will give you a warning, and second, it will force creating a new cluster for you. As I said, you cannot roll back. And same thing, if you try to detach and put another private network ID to your cluster, first you get a warning, and if you move forward with your Terraform plan, then it will be forcing to create a new cluster on top of it. Okay, so short answer is yes, you can do it with Terraform, with the same migration process, same migration route happening on Terraform rather than console. I hope that answers your question, Philippe. Any other question from? Thank you for the thumbs up.
We have a new one. Frank.
What is the best way? Well, yeah, let's answer. What is the best way to configure a cluster if you have workloads that call APIs that work only with fixed allows IPs? Yes, we hear you. There are some alternatives. Some operators have been being used by our users for a while. Although the support is not official, I'd be happy to send you the link. But again, still very experimental. I'd rather wait until indeed this version 2 that is coming next quarter. I mean, it is really a matter of weeks before we release public gateways compatibility. That would be at the pool level. We hard at work right now. So perhaps you have this in-between solution for the time being, but wait until a few weeks and you have this public gateway feeder for you. This way you'd have this fixed output IP that you'll be able to whitelist to external services like you're saying here. We know this has been a high request, of course. We isolate everything, but we do need to make sure there's an IP that we know that we can whitelist everywhere.
And another one. No, it's finished.
Chat, feel free to ask any questions. We hope this short webinar gave you some clarity on what's the current status. We are as transparent as we can. Many of you are discussing every single day on the Slack community we have at Scaleway. There is a K8S channel that is very vibrant, and plenty of users have been doing this migration already. Some of you have been waiting to do it. If you have any challenges, any hiccups, feel free to report. We are very fast at fixing what has to be fixed, making sure that the transition is very smooth for you.
I just sent the link of the community.
Brilliant. Thank you, Alexandre. Well, if there's no further question, I guess we'll stop here for today.
Yeah, maybe a last mention of our Keep Talk on our newsletter as well. We have two things. Like if you want to have more information about Kubernetes and about the things we do on Kubernetes, we have a newsletter on Behind the Helm. It's its name. You can find it on our Kapsule webpage. Every month we send some new update about the things we've seen on Kubernetes, things that are cool, some cool use cases, not only on Scaleway, but everywhere. So it's very interesting. I invite you to subscribe. And second thing, we do a Cube Talk every month in Paris, if you are a Parisian. We do a meetup with all the Kubernetes community in Paris. Sometimes somewhere else, but we're just starting. Do you have other question or no? It's just a comment. Okay, so that's it for me. Maybe Thibaut, just the last word or?
Oh, see you on Slack very soon. Happy to have you today. Have a good day.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.